Hi, everyone. I am Kelly, and this is Vote Her In. Vote Her In is a collaboration between Two Broads Talking Politics and Rebecca Sive, who's the author of Vote Her In, Your Guide to Electing Our First Woman President. So we are thrilled to be joined today by my representative, and I'm going to turn it over to Rebecca now to introduce her. Hi, Rebecca.
Hi, Kelly. And how lucky are you? I could almost move to the South Side for that. But yeah, hello, everyone, and thrilled to be here and to be with Representative Robin Kelly from Illinois, a leader in many respects. And Robin's been on the show before. I know she met with Kelly maybe a year and a half or 2 years ago, but since then she has, of course, done lots of great work, and we really wanted to catch up with her and talk with her about what she's focusing on right now in her congressional work. And just a note for those of you who may know about Representative Kelly's other hat, which is as chair of the Illinois Democratic Party, we can't talk about that today. So we're going to have nerdy public policy talk, right? And then on another occasion, we'll ask her to come and share with us what's going on with Democratic politics and all of that. So welcome. Just a couple words of introduction for those of you who may not know Representative Kelly. She has been in the Congress since, I guess, 2013. Prior to that was in the Illinois House of Representatives, was the administrative head of Cook County, which, for those of you who don't know, is the second largest county in the United States after LA County. It's a big deal place, including Chicago, of course. And also was the chief of staff for the Illinois State Treasurer. And in that role, I wanted to just mention that in particular because we're always focusing here on women in executive roles in particular. And in that case, Robin was the first African-American woman to run a statewide constitutional office, which is no small matter in any state. Certainly in Illinois, it's a very big matter. So, and she has been a leader on gun control. We're going to talk about that, on issues related to maternal mortality. We'll talk about that. But I thought where we might start, for those who may not know you or how you came to be sitting in that chair, if you could share with us how you made the decision to become a public official, and just head down this path.
It's something I never, ever, ever thought that I would do. And I was really minding my business one day, and 5 men actually came to me and asked me to run for state rep. It was just like now, it was a redistricting period. And, they wanted someone different than it looked like we would have had if I didn't run. And I told them, no, initially. And I said, I'm sensitive. I'll cry if they talk about me. But my family and friends convinced me to do it. And, a lot of thought, prayer. I really decided to take a leap of faith. I always thought I would be the person to the elected, never the elected myself. But I took a leap of faith. I ran against a 10-year incumbent, and the gentleman that asked me to do it, and others that said they would be by my side, they were by my side. Because a lot of times people say to people, you should run, and then the person decides to run, and those very people are not around them anymore. They're not as helpful as they said they would be, because it's easy to say run for office, but until you get in it, you really don't know how grueling it is. And it's grueling.
And can you, just in terms of your own, I know, and I was really happy when this happened, as I think we all were, when Jill Biden said, I'm Dr. Biden, right? And you are Dr. Kelly, right?
Yes. So I just never tell anybody, and actually, they asked my permission. My staff said, can we please, put it up that you're Dr. Kelly, just to be in sync with Joe Biden. And when I said, okay, and then I had an onslaught, like, we had no idea. How come you don't, call yourself that? But the thing is, when I became Dr. Kelly, I was State Representative Kelly, so I already had a title, and then I just, it's not me. But then I guess one of my staffers said, should she keep it there or take it down? Then everybody went crazy. You better keep it there. So, so I'm embracing it more now.
Mm-hmm. And does it have any connection to that? Once you made that decision to run for office and continue running for office, do you find that your educational background has some pertinence to what you're doing?
Well, the funny thing is, I have an undergrad and master's from Bradley University. So I was a psych and major undergrad in counseling. So I have my master's in counseling, and I often say my psych and counseling degrees help me more where I am now than the PhD in political science, because I'm dealing with some interesting people. But no, I've always wanted to get my PhD. I knew it would be in, political science or sociology, because I always wanted to be in a helping profession. And the truth is, I had two pie in the sky jobs, one working with the president that I believed in on a federal level. And then the other is, just in case the president's listening, working at the UN. So I got my other, work. I mean, the idea that I was there the same time as Barack Obama, that was priceless for me, especially since we served together. And, I helped when he ran for Senate and president. So that was special. And now I'm thrilled to be there with Joe Biden and Kamala Harris.
Yeah. So politics and the political arena for women has changed a lot in the time that you've been in politics, and especially has changed for moms. We talk a lot about electing more moms, and of course, you're a mom. What are some of the lessons that have helped you along the way? The kinds of things that you think women in office, women in politics should know about?
Well, I just think that moms and women seem like, we're more flexible, and it seems like we could be prepared for anything. And that is really a good skill to have when you're in politics. And, I want women to know no one has all the answers, and everyone brings something to the table. Like me, it was, am I good enough to do this? Yes, you're good enough, to do it. And, you'll find camaraderie and, among other women, but also, things are changing. So around, some of the men too, people are more, understanding. And it's not just the women that want to get back home to be with their kids. The men want to get back home also. And even the way we're doing our schedule right now, and some of it's because of COVID, but some of it is because there are more parents with younger kids in Congress. So we're home for 3 weeks now, but I get sick of the news, so don't say this, that we're on a break. No, we're recessed from DC. We're not physically there, but I've been on Zooms and hearings. We still have all of that. We're still doing our work. We're just not doing it, in DC. I'm still in meetings, still, phone calls, still hearings, and but we're just home. So, and some of that's COVID, but some of it is because of, the makeup of Congress.
Has the way that women support each other in that arena changed over time? I talked to Brooke Baldwin a few weeks ago, and she said that she had seen a change in the past, decade, 15 years, about the way that women are now supporting each other and helping each other rise. Have you seen that in Congress as well?
I definitely think that women are learning to be, more supportive, learning, on the financial side to be more supportive. But no, I in Congress, there's a women's caucus, there's a bipartisan women's caucus. We here in the Senate, the women, go out together, on both sides of the aisle and that kind of thing. So I think that there's just this tendency for most women, I'm not going to say everybody, because we have some interesting women I serve with in Congress right now. And even though they're supportive of each other, but I think that women are supportive of each other. There's more women in leadership. Well, we have Nancy Pelosi, but not only Nancy, Maxine Waters, Eddie Bernice Johnson, Rosa DeLauro, all the people that are the heads of committees, there's a lot more women in charge, large and in charge, which is fantastic.
So related to women being in charge and focusing on all of the issues, but you have focused in particular, certainly in your first campaign and ever since, and I think now chair some task force on the issue of gun violence in Congress. Can you talk with us? I think we're a day after the sad anniversary of George Floyd's murder. And I know the president recognized that, and you did too. I think I saw an email from you earlier today in my inbox on that. If you could talk with us a bit about what's going on in that arena, how you see it, what your priorities are on the matter of gun violence and prevention.
Sure. I mean, to be honest with you, is very wearying, is very frustrating because I've been talking about this. My first piece of legislation I passed in the state house was on store purchases. So I've been, paying attention to this for a long time, but I ran on it, in Congress, getting to Congress, and I'm still working on it. Since I've been here, we have not gotten one law signed in. We've passed the background check once again in Congress. We passed closing the loopholes, but we have not passed them in the Senate, and I know now that President Biden's there, we would get that passed. But it's not only about that legislation in the Chicagoland area and other areas. We need national trafficking and store purchasing laws because when I go to DC, people are like, what is happening in Chicago? They have the strictest gun laws, but I said, but no one else around us does. And that's part of the problem. But when you think, I think it was at least 50 people shot this past weekend and 11 dead. We cannot continue like this, but it's the legislation, it's police community relations, and it's also investing in communities that there's been disinvestment. We have to give people, opportunity and hope. And I always say nothing stops a bullet like an opportunity. And that might be, a job skills, a mentor, furthering your education, another hobby, something else beside, picking up guns. But, I have a lot of legislation, more than, anyone else. Lucy McBath, my colleague, is a champion because she lost her son, to gun violence. So, there's that. And then there's, police reform that's needed also. And I come from a family of law enforcement, New York City cops. I have nephews that are CPD. My cousin is NYPD. But what hurts a good cop is a bad cop. And we have to have police reform. I mean, it's ridiculous. And as you mentioned, the 1-year anniversary of George Floyd, so sad. I can't even, there are no words. And the idea that we cannot get the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act passed in the Senate. My colleague Karen Bass is working so hard with Cory Booker and Tim Scott, but the qualified immunity, is the issue that's stopping some of it, and it's really holding police more accountable. And believe me, I'm not against law enforcement. Like I said, and they're my family, friends. When I worked for the village of Matteson, I worked with so many police officers, and even now, I do. But this cannot continue either. The community violence can't continue, but also the police violence can't continue either.
So if you just to focus on Chicago for a second, because it seems to be, its experience is very different from its peer cities, right? From New York and LA. And can you share with our Chicago listeners why you think that is? If you were able to just say, well, okay, gang, this is what we're going to do, what would you say we should be doing?
To me, it has something to do also with, Chicago is still one of the segregated, cities in America. And I think that it has something to do with that. I think it has something to do with poverty. I think it has something to do with lack of access to, we talk about the social determinants of health, but also there's social determinants of life. And I think that, it has something to do with those very same things, again, going back to, what opportunities people have, what hope do people have? What do they see for themselves? And, I just think that, it's really tough. Yes, it's the drugs and the gangs, the easy access, to guns. It's it's social media and Facebook. It's all of that too. It's, when you hear stories of people that have gotten in trouble, like people that I've been with that, went to jail because they hurt someone or robbed or, whatever. But when you hear the stories, not that I want them to do what they did, but it's just, wow, like kids raising kids in some circumstances. But, but then also, people say, well, I grew up in that environment and I didn't do that. But, there's been research. If you have one person that really cares about you, it can, make a difference. And some people don't feel like they didn't have that even. But I just think it's not one thing that's going to curb our gun culture, and it happens all over the United States, like what just happened today. But one a voice I think I play is that we always talk about the mass shootings, but I keep reminding them, if you die by yourself, you're just as important, and you're somebody's mother, father, sister, brother, son, or daughter. And that's what I have to remind people of, that, we have a slow motion massacre, a slow motion mass shooting, if you add everyone up. So we have to, it's too many guns, easy access to guns. And then also we can't forget about still the number one way people die from guns is suicide. So we have to, make sure that, people have access to mental health, and also not making it so easy to get a gun, because when people commit suicide, they're much more successful when they use a gun as opposed to other things. And when they're not successful, oftentimes they're glad they're not successful.
So switching gears a little bit to the pandemic, there are so many people are so excited to sort of get back to normal. There's a lot of, moving back out into the world. But for people like me who have kids who are under 12 years old, who are not yet eligible for the vaccine, it's a totally different world of figuring out risks and what we should be doing or shouldn't be doing, navigating those. What sorts of advice do you have for your constituents, including me, who have kids, about sort of what the best practice is for this summer we're going into until we get to the point where we can be vaccinating children?
Sure. Well, I have a 6-year-old grandson that, has my husband and I wrapped around his finger. So, I mean, still have to wear, mask and be socially distanced and wash your hands. These are such simple things, though. It seems like some people still have a hard time with. One thing good, because so many more people are vaccinated. So we're not at the, herd immunity yet, but so that helps the people that aren't vaccinated. But I think, we still have to take the same precautions, but because of summer, it's like, get your child out there though, still, because that is so tough to be stuck in the house, and I know my grandson did not like the e-learning or, Zoom. That just was not for him, even though he had to do it. But when he's here, we try to get him out, even if it's just going for a walk or, riding his bike, and, that, and, he's not around anybody, but you still have to do some of the same things. Luckily, Pfizer with the 12 to 15-year-olds, and then Moderna looks like they're getting there also. And they are testing below 12. So hopefully, we'll have something soon. But and every that's why it's so important for adults to get their shots, because of the kids, let's protect the young folks who can't get their shots yet.
Right. And speaking of that, I know you've also been working on a couple of bills that relate in particular to maternal health. And maybe you could share with our listeners what that's about and how they can help you and Representative Underwood and the other people pushing for this to get these laws passed. They're terrifically important.
I had no idea how bad we were doing as far as maternal mortality compared to other developed countries. They're decreasing and we're increasing. And unfortunately, in Chicago, it's worse. It happens to all women, but it happens to Black women more, like 2.5 to 3 times the rate of white women. But in Illinois, it was as much as 6 times the rate. And in the state of Washington with Native women, 8 times the rate. And other states too, worse than 6 times or 8 times. And we're trying to pass legislation. When you hear that 2/3 or 70% of the deaths are preventable, I mean, that's absolutely ridiculous. And it's a combination of things. Women are not listened to. Women of color are not listened to even more. I just did something with Political yesterday with other docs, and um, uh, uh, women of color aren't given the same amount of pain medicine other women are. Just the institutionalized racism, just and coverage is a big issue too. Like I just had passed in the American Rescue Plan that the postpartum period, if you're on Medicaid, will go from 60 days to a year, the entire postpartum period. But at this point, we can't make a state do it. But ladies, Illinois was the first state to do it. So Illinois is a role model. So thanks to, the work of the state legislature and the governor, assigning what he needed to sign, and then we pushed it, in Congress. So Illinois is number one, and hopefully will be a role model for other states. Now I have further legislation that gives states incentive to do it, but hopefully we can get to the point where states just have to do it. And I have legislation around data collection and legislation around cultural competency, best practices. Like why is it successful in some places and not in others? What are those other hospitals doing, that we need to put forward as best practices? Also, a national review committee. Philadelphia has a review committee, and their maternal mortality went down 75%. So those my pieces of legislation, and then Congressman Underwood, she has her momnibus bill with different legislation from different members of Congress, and some is data collection and other things like that. The importance of doulas and also midwives. I ran a hearing with Congresswoman Maloney from New York, and Tatiana Ali, who was in the Fresh Prince. She was one of our witnesses, and she talked about the terrible experience she had with her first birth, but her second birth, she had a midwife, and how wonderful it was. And it's not, people think, oh, it just happens to poor women, but Beyonce is not poor, Serena Williams is not poor, Tatiana Ali is not poor, Kyra Johnson. That's how I first learned about this. From her husband Charles and her mother-in-law's Judge Hatchett. That's how I was introduced to all of this. She wasn't poor. She was educated, in good health, at a good hospital, and she still died.
Yeah. It reminds me when I was, I'm the oldest of 5 kids born in the 50s, and my mother breastfed. And I remember her telling me at the time that, that was not a popular, it wasn't, you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to go get formula, and of course, these natural ways of being a mom and being a kid are just so much better. I mean, I guess the world came back around, but it took a while. People would look at her like she was weird. Maybe she was.
No, she wasn't. She wasn't weird.
So
she's 97 and doing her thing, let me tell you.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So we have women watching and listening who are interested in getting involved, either running for office or getting involved in politics in other ways. What advice do you have for them?
Well, I tell people that if you want to run, you should, get involved, whether a campaign or speak to people already in office, speak to people in a seat you're interested in, so you could really find out, what does it entail, and speak to a few people, speak to men, speak to women, speak to people that have been around a long time, a short time. If you don't want to run but are interested, still get involved with somebody, because we need good people to help us, get to where, we want to go. And also it's a way for your voice to be heard, if you feel a certain way about an issue, or get involved in a group that deals with certain issues. It could, it could be pro-choice, or, the environment, or gun violence, different things like that. There are plenty of spaces for people to get involved if they want to. But if you want to run, I would speak to people that have done it, and I would speak to people that have lost too. Run and what can you glean from that? I mean, I won and I've lost, and then I won again, so I mean, it happens to, so many people, but just learn as much as you can learn. It'll still be a shock when you start doing it. If you do it, it'll just be like, oh, where's my privacy? I just want a little time to myself, and then, the money part, which we need campaign finance reform so bad, because I feel like it keeps good people out, or, good people don't win, or good people don't stay, because it's just having to raise that money.
Yeah.
It's a drag.
I've had people tell me to run for Congress, but I promise I won't primary you.
Don't do it yet.
Wait a few years, right? Well, listen.
No, we need more women. I know it looks like, there's a lot of women, but we're still, 25% of Congress. I can't even think of, the Michigan and Alabama and Arizona women governors. I mean, that is nothing. And we're supposedly so progressive. And when you look at the rest of the world, women have been doing it, and, women senators, no black female senator, it's just crazy. So, we need, if people are interested, we need to build the bench, and we need to start at every level. It could be the library board, the school board. It doesn't have to be, the president, but.
Well, we're going to ask you to come back and talk about that, and tell us what we can do more of, both in Illinois and everywhere else. But tonight we'll say thank you, Robin, for checking in with us and sharing. And I'm sure we'll both see you soon. And even if you're working hard, you look great. So we're glad to see that too. Thank you very much.
Must be the lighting.
Thank you.
Good to see you. Take care.